What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm once again joined by Tyler, and we are back for another video on our Pirates of the Caribbean community series, a community series that airs every other Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. We're doing things a little bit different. Actually, from now on, we had a poll that went up on the channel a few weeks ago, and we asked you, what do you want to see from our Pirates of the Caribbean content? I think it's important that you guys have a big say in what you want to see, especially those that still watch these videos. You know, we want to make these videos for you, and the majority ruled that you want to see Pirate 6 stuff. So we're going to do that for you for the next several videos. We're going to be talking about Pirate 6, a lot of stuff Pirate 6 related, and then those other two things we mentioned in the polls we will eventually get to. So we're going to be doing all three, but Pirate 6 stuff first. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Pintel and Ragetti. Now, we've done this a couple times with different characters. We've talked about, will Davy Jones return in Pirate 6? We've talked about, will Elizabeth return in Pirate 6? Definitely go check those videos out if you haven't. Those videos are some of the better Pirates content, so I assume that a lot of you guys have already seen that. But in this one, we want to talk about Pintel and Ragetti. Very important characters to the Pirates of the Caribbean universe, characters that were missing in the last two movies for various reasons, contracts, just not having things work out, maybe Disney not wanting them back. So there's been reasons, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but will they return? Would it be a good idea? How would it work? So we're going to discuss all that stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to Tyler first. So Tyler, just, easy first question is, would you want to see them back in Pirate 6, and do you think that would be in the best interest of the film?
I absolutely want to see them back in Pirate 6. Or, if they do Pirate 6, 7, whatever, I totally want to see him back. My only question is, what do they do with Scrum? Because I feel like they try to combine Pintel and Ragetti, and they created Scrum, where I'd rather just have Pintel and Ragetti. My only thing is, like, where do they fit in a new, not that it's a new universe, but this newer era, I guess, of Pirates of the Caribbean with Scrum as, like, the part that they played in the previous movies. But other than that question, I guess, I love those two characters. I think, I'm not going to say that they're the best part of 2 and 3, but they are, I will say, the biggest surprise to me in Pirates of the Caribbean 2, and not so much in 3, but 2 mainly, like, biggest surprise, but in 3, like, they were really good characters that I enjoyed. Like, anytime they're on the screen, I liked them. Really, even through 1, 2, and 3, but especially 2 and 3.
When 2 first came out, this was before we were into this kind of stuff like online. This is before, I was young just in general. I didn't know the cast for Pirates 2. Okay, so when I went to go see that film, we have these returning faces, and I knew we would be getting, I figured even Norrington, I figured Norrington would be back for Pirates 2. The characters I never even had a thought that they'd be back was those two. So when you first see them rowing on the boat to the island, to the Pelagostus Island, I was like, wait a second, what? Like, of all the characters, and I actually thought that, of all the characters to pick, you picked these two. Because, there were other Barbossa members in Pirates 1 that I guess could have come back in Pirates 2. And I'm like, oh, you picked them? But then when you think about it, it was a very, very smart move to have these two come back from 1. They were pretty good in 1, and they definitely, had a light shining on them in 1 where it's like, okay, you can tell they're supporting characters, but they're pretty important. And for them to be fleshed out more, and, Tyler and I have talked a lot about Barbossa and how special it is and how a movie doesn't really do the whole bad guy becomes a good guy. Funny enough, Pirates did it before Pirates did it, because Pintel and Ragetti are good guys in the beginning of 2. They find Jack, they find Will, and they immediately just decide we'll help them, because they're kind of, they're not as meaningful characters. Their loyalties just lie with whoever, and they found those two, and they're like, oh, we'll help you sail the Pearl and stuff, and we'll run from the Kraken together. So it was really, really cool to see these guys that were just villains, and they were likable in 1, but they they're still villains, and they didn't have as much as a personality, I guess, as Barbossa to make them more. But then, in 2, you start to realize, oh, these are like the comedic aspects, but they are individual people, and they are very, very special. And then in Pirates 3, I think they definitely elevated their role even more, where I would maybe even consider them main characters of Pirates 3. I'd maybe give them more main character status than a character like Sao Fang. So when it comes to 6, I absolutely think so. I mean, they've been trying. Pintel, the actor for Pintel, has been wanting to get back into this for both 4 and 5. And basically, Disney has shut them down. They also kind of have a thing where they wouldn't do it without each other. I think that makes sense. I wouldn't really want to see one of them without the other. I think you have maybe a situation like Pirates 4 if you have that kind of thing. But it makes complete sense to throw them back in. They would be really good additions. You already have very strong characters in Karina and Henry. And so to add Pintel and Ragetti back, you immediately get 2 very strong characters. We were talking way back when Pirates 5 came out. The loss of Barbossa is going to be felt in 6, but I think Pintel and Ragetti, if you add back 2 very good characters, that'll definitely offset it. So Tyler, really the only other part of this, how do you think they would be brought back, and how do you think, like you were talking about with Scrum, how do you think they should be used? Do you want to see them more as like supporting characters that are just there for fun, or would you want to like see more of them? Like how should they use them if they come back?
Well, I think the first thing that they'd have to address is why Barbossa basically left them after At World's End. Obviously, there's a gap between At World's End and On Stranger Tides. But what would have to be addressed is why exactly and what happened. Like why did Barbossa leave them? Someone might be saying maybe they died like when Blackbeard attacked the Black Pearl. Technically, they could have not had Barbossa in the movie and been like, oh yeah, Blackbeard killed him. If they're bringing somebody back, just like all the characters, by the way, other than Scrum in this movie and Gibbs. Marty was in 5, and he was, we all thought, he was on the Black Pearl along with Barbossa and all that stuff, and everybody thought he was dead because they said, like, basically all of them died or whatever they said, it seemed like they were maybe, like, stuck on the ship or whatever. No one really knows inside the bottle. And we only thought that because Jack the Monkey is seen, like, super small. So it's like, why is he still there on the ship, but you don't see anybody else on the crew still on the ship, like miniature? So it's like, are they all dead? Are they like below deck? Like, what's the deal? But my point is, like, Marty was with Barbossa on that ship. Marty is now, all of a sudden back. We're not told how, we're not told why or whatever, but he's back. So it's like they can do that with Pintel and Ragetti, but because of the connection with Barbossa, it would be better for them to explain or like show whatever, why they weren't with Barbossa. Maybe Barbossa had hints that Blackbeard was going to be an issue, but he kind of like ignored them and thought maybe that they could defeat him or whatever, and maybe like they kind of were getting scared, or maybe they were kind of like questioning Barbossa's leadership in a way. So they're like, you know what? We're not going to get killed for this, and maybe they went off and they wanted to do their own thing. That could be something. Maybe, it would be funny if they came up with Ragetti, Pintel and Ragetti, but they both open like a store and like it's all like fake eyes, and that's what they sell. Like they craft these little fake eyes for people who lose their eyes. It could be just, it doesn't have to, and the only reason I'm saying that is, it doesn't have to be an amazing reason, and it doesn't have to be like a completely serious reason, because they're more like comedic characters anyways. It could be funny, but it could also tie into, like here's why we were in 4 and 5. We were busy doing this, but now Barbossa's gone or this and that, and now we're gonna be back because we just missed the life, and we miss sailing with Jack or whatever. That's all they have to say. I just want them to say it, because the one thing I don't like about 5. Now there are problems in 5. You could go watch our review, whatever. But the one thing that bothers me about 5, almost most, other than like extremely drunk Jack, which is what I'm like trademarking as his name. Other than him, the thing I didn't like the most was how Marty was just back, just like I was just saying a couple seconds ago. Like, he's just back, and like we don't even know why. And it's kind of like, what? Like, how are you back? We all were like almost told, or I guess we just like assumed you were dead. So like, what? Why are you back? That was like a weird. Like, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, what? Because in the trailer when we see him, we assume that was the scene that the Black Pearl becomes large again. It's like, oh, they were on the ship because he was like with Gibbs, or I forgot like what it was. But then I think, yeah, he was with Gibbs. So then we're like, well, wait, but Gibbs is in Force, so that can't be it. So it was like a weird thing. So we were just kind of like speculating, like, well, we know the ship comes back big, so maybe that's where Marty comes from. It's like, no, he was in it from the beginning, like in the opening, Jack's opening, and it's like, wait, what? So, but that's not a good wait, what? Like, it was like cool, but like, it's like, but that doesn't make like sense. Like, why? So I want them to avoid that from me, probably from Alex, probably from John Swindle and any other like really big pirate person that kind of wants the stuff to make sense, which is probably most of you. And just avoid that, and just tell us, just give us a reason. I don't want it to be a serious reason. It could be a funny reason, but I need a reason that makes sense, that fits into the timeline that has been established. Don't change it again. And that's all I'm asking for. But 100%, I want them in. Because I do think that when I think of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, I think Jack Sparrow, I think Barbossa, I occasionally think Will, mainly Elizabeth, and I honestly think Pintel and Ragetti, and then I'll think about Gibbs after them too, and Davy Jones, obviously. Those Davy Jones becomes it really goes Jack, Barbossa, Davy Jones, but Pintel and Ragetti, honestly, for me, and I like Gibbs, but they come before Gibbs because there's just something about those two that I just really like. They should be used essentially like how they were used in 3, not 2, because they were kind of like, back and forth a little bit. Where 3, like, it was like, yeah, they're good. Not that they're good, they're pirates, but they're with Jack and all that stuff. So that's all I want. I just want them to, I just want them to be the characters that they are. I don't need them to change them. I think they're perfect the way that they are. The little like things that they have with each other, like how they fight, but they're together and they're just funny and they're always kind of getting into some kind of like situation. Just keep them the way that they are. Don't try to make them what they're not. Like, I don't want that. I just want them to, go watch the movies a bunch more times if you have to. I'm talking to the writers. Watch the movies a bunch more times. Only watch, like, them, analyze them, see, like, this is what they would do in this situation. And that's all I want. That's all I want. I don't need it to be a big thing. I want them in it more than, like, 2 minutes total. They should be in it like they were, like, in 2 and 3. But, yeah, I mean, they don't have to radically change the character or anything like that. Like, just leave them the way that they are. But even, what I would really like? If they called Karina Poppet. I would like that.
Yeah, they have a lot of potential with those two characters, and I agree with Tyler. I think one of the main problems with 5 is just the lack of explanation. Right? Firstly, they changed a lot of things, but then they didn't explain why they changed a lot of things. So I think a mistake that they made that we don't want them to make, and that could definitely be a video on itself, is you have to explain stuff in Pirates 6, and there's a perfect first way of doing it. If you see them in a scene, first scene needs to be an explanation of why they're there. And I would want, like Tyler said, I completely agree too. It doesn't have to be good. It could be a very stupid thing. And when he said, opening up their own shop, they could even have like a flashback where they're like all dressed up, like just like making pies or something. Like I can imagine that. So that makes sense, and it doesn't have to be super serious, because those two aren't serious in the first place. So I definitely agree with that, and don't change them. Like Tyler said, they are very good characters, and the movie is going to be very interesting. How are you going to balance the lack of Barbossa? Do you give Karina and Henry even more time? Do you start to take time away from Jack? If this is Jack's last movie, does he become even more in the front of it? Is he in like every scene? So how do you balance it? You need Pintel and Ragetti in there a little bit. I would not want them back as like if you told me you could have Pintel and Ragetti back, but only as a cameo, I'd think I'd honestly not take it. I'd prefer just not even have them in it. If I have them in this movie, I need them to be supporting characters, and I want to see them quite often. Because I think they bring a lot to the table and definitely are a strong part of what makes 2 and 3 fun. Like, there's a lot of fun in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and they make those movies fun. They don't really participate that much in action, although the sword fight they had with Elizabeth in 2, one of the better, action scenes of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. You don't have to have them do actiony things if you don't want. They can just do comedy. Like, that's fine, but I wouldn't want them in, like, as a cameo. I don't want to see them for 2 seconds like Jack's dad or somebody like that. That is who you do a cameo with, not Pintel and Ragetti. But I definitely agree. Keep them the way they are, and I think the movie will overall be much better with them. And like Tyler said, to see them interact with Karina, I think would be really, really cool. They have a relationship with Barbosa, so now with his daughter, there's a lot of possibility there. So that's what we think. What do you guys think? Do you want to see Pintel and Ragetti back in Pirates 6? And if so, how would you do it? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast. Now, this is, again, our Pirates of the Caribbean Community Series, a series that airs every other Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. We are going the distance. We're going to be continuing these on the next several, really, for quite a while. We're going to just do Pirates 6 content. We will eventually get to prequel talk, and we'll also discuss TV shows. And we're just going to keep going. We do eventually expect an announcement of Pirates 6 or some leaks or whatever, and whenever that does happen, we will, jump on that train and be right there at the forefront of YouTube for Pirates of the Caribbean content. So we're very, very excited about that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in 2 weeks.